Hi everyone and welcome to Learn Excel with Ramon. Today we're going to look at some basic statistics using Excel functions. So the first question is, why is it important to know these functions? So why don't I just look at the data set and start pulling my statistics out of it? Well, the answer is very simple. When you have a data set such as this one here in column A that only has, say, 15 data points, 15, yes, it's not very difficult to look at the minimum value, the maximum value, calculate the range, or even the average, look at the median point. Not very difficult when you have a small data set. However, which is mostly the case, normally we're working with a very large data set. So in column B, as an example, I have 500 data points. So it will be kind of difficult and time-consuming to go through the dataset and start doing the statistics on this by hand. So let's have a look at the Excel functions that can help us to be more efficient in calculating and understanding the basic statistics of a dataset. So the first thing that I want to do here is the count. I know there are 500 numbers in this dataset, but I want to confirm that and make sure that I did the count right. So I'm going to use the function count. In Excel, you always start pulling a function by using the equal sign. So equal count, and then I'm going to open brackets. Value 1, I'm going to click on the first value. Now, one trick to make a selection very fast here and not to be playing with the mouse, you can hit Ctrl Shift arrow down in your keyboard. And that's going to go down and select the entire block of numbers within that data set. Assuming that there are no gaps, there are no empty rows here, it will go all the way down and pick up all the numbers. So you can see here that I have now equals count, open brackets, B2, the first cell, to B501. Close brackets and hit enter. 500 numbers. So that's how many data points I have in the data set. Okay, before I move on, I just want to show you something. I want to go up to this function here, to the syntax, and right in between B and 2, I'm going to click right in there, and I'm going to hit F4 on the keyboard. And you see those dollar signs there before the letter B and before the number 2? And I'm going to do the same thing for the second cell here, B501, right in there in the middle, F4. Same idea, dollar sign before B, dollar sign before the number. What this does is it fixes that range selection. So whatever I do with this function from now on, that selection stays. It will always go from B2 to B501. So I'm going to hit enter. The number is not going to change, but I fixed that data selection range. Okay, I'm going to copy this function here, and I'm going to place it here for minimum value. Copy and paste, Control C, and then Control V to paste. It brought in the same number because I have the same function. But I am going to change this function here from count to min, for minimum. The data selection range is the same. Hit enter and it returns your minimum value within this data set. Let's do the same thing for the maximum value. I'm going to drag it down, which is the same as copy and paste, and change the function once again. This time to max, for maximum. Hit enter, maximum value 100. Okay, when we're talking about statistics though, there are two things that we always have to look into: the measures of central tendency and the measures of dispersion or spread. So I'm going to use the same selection range here to apply a different function. Same thing we did before, but to a new function. So once again, Control C, it's copy, and you can also click with the right button of the mouse and paste, same as copy and paste, same as Control C, Control V. And again, it brought me the max because I pulled it from here, but I'm going to change this function to average, which is the function in Excel to give you the average or the mean of the data set. It should return 72.124, as you see here. So I'm going to drag it down one more time and look into the median. If you recall your stats, the median is the true midpoint within the dataset. The median does not suffer impact from outliers, which could be super high numbers or super low numbers. The median sits right in the middle of the dataset, no matter what. So once again, I'm going to use that previously used average function, and I'm just going to simply change to median. Same data set, of course. And it returns 72, which is pretty close to my mean. It also means that this data set is very symmetrical. It's highly concentrated around the mean. The mode, which is the most frequent number, equals mode. In my Excel version, which is the 2013 for Windows 10, I'm going to use mode.sngl. Double click there. And again, I can just select the first, Control, Shift, arrow down, and then close the brackets. You will see that in this case, I don't have the $sign there because it's a new selection, but it's the same as the one before. I just did it in a different way to show you. In terms of spread, I want to know the range, which is simply your maximum value in the data set, which I already have, minus the minimum value, which I also already have, 55. Now, there is another measure of the spread or dispersion called variance, not very used in terms of looking at the data set like this, and the square root of the variance is the standard deviation, which is more practical in ways in counting how many units in terms of distance from the average the data points are. So there is a function for that, equals stdev, and if I wanted to do this by hand, I can also do B2, I'm just typing the number, column, B501. You can see on the side there that it's already selecting. And close the brackets, hit enter. It returns 16.65, which is the standard deviation for this data set. So there you have it, some very basic statistics. I wrote the functions on the side here in case you need to recall them later. But very simply, you can effectively and quickly work with whatever data set you have, pull some basic statistics. Of course, you can learn more about stats on its own in other courses, but in Excel, you can simply use these functions and you have pretty much a good idea of the measures of central tendency, measures of dispersion, and some other basic information about the data set, such as the count, minimum value, maximum, so on and so forth. So I hope you've learned something today, and I hope you've had fun. I'll see you next time.